All right, man. We're in West Charlotte. Both of us have been here for a little while, but neither one of us are from here. You know, we've shared our stories with each other more than a few times before. But where are you from, and how'd you end up in this place called West Charlotte?
So I'm a Nigerian to start with. Grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. I think studying in the seminary and choosing Charlotte has been one of my biggest decisions in my life, which I'm thankful for. So it's been an amazing transition.
Well, it's funny because I still feel like I've just moved here to West Charlotte relatively recently, but I guess it's been almost 6 years now. Moved here also for seminary.
Okay.
I originally was from Durham, North Carolina, and it wasn't strange at all to have parents that are Black and had college degrees and had professional careers. But then around age 12, we moved to this place called Pinehurst, North Carolina, and it was a very different type of situation.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you know, you had basically two demographic options. Unfortunately, either you were wealthy and white, or you were a person of color and under-resourced. And our family didn't quite fit either of those groups. And so that was difficult for us on our family level, but also for me personally, being a middle schooler and already being, you know, at that awkward age of life, it was hard to really find your place and find your space. Well, growing up in Nigeria, what are the conversations surrounding race, if any at all?
I think the simple answer to that is just probably none.
Okay.
So Nigeria is about 200 million people.
Yeah.
And all of us look like me, like you right now.
Yeah, so that's my question.
Yeah.
Human beings have this amazing evil ability to separate themselves along some lines.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Yep.
What were the lines of separation primarily growing up in Lagos?
So Lagos, well, Nigeria as a country has, like, it feels like a miniature racism in some ways, but it's called,
Gotcha.
we call it like tribalism.
Tribalism.
And then we would have like workplaces, employers, almost like make those distinctions between, you see your name, for example, in Nigerian, when you see my name, you can tell exactly where I'm from.
When was the first time that you were exposed to the racial challenges that we have historically had here in the United States?
Yeah, the first time I got to America.
So in Nigeria, that's not a conversation. Do y'all talk about,
At all.
like, do y'all talk about us?
I think-
Like, do y'all talk about the Black people in America? Because we like to think that y'all like think about us all the time. Y'all don't
Yeah.
think about us?
I think that in so many ways we are overwhelmed with the challenges that we have.
Yeah.
That when we see America, when we see African Americans, Black people in America, it's almost like we see them as they're in better place.
Got you.
They're in better place, and we're here. You don't know what it's like being here, so that place is better. So when I go here, kind of like cross over and begin to see the experiences here, I'm like, not so better.
Yeah.
It just feels like the same struggle we have back in Nigeria with a different shade. So,
Was there an expectation at all, or like a desire that that we as African Americans should be doing more to even help you all with situations that you guys might be dealing with in Nigeria? Was there any type of, hey, they're doing better off than we are in many ways,
Yeah.
and they don't even care about what's going on here? Was there any of that?
I think there's this gap in understanding, or I would say in knowledge, understanding. We have a very vague idea of what it means to be African American, and I think also.
Where did y'all get that idea from? Like, how do you know what African American life is like living in Lagos?
The only thing we have is gonna be like the media, like
Okay.
movies, like music.
So we're all
Like-
either Jay-Z or Beyonce?
I know. So we consume like almost every music you guys consume here too.
Okay.
So I think the biggest source of we having an understanding of what it means to be African American is going to be your movies and probably music.
Yeah.
So that gives you a big idea. I mean, and most times you see this music are usually very expensive. the show of wealth and all that. So you have this vague idea of they probably having it good over there. So we should cross over there. And but when I got here also, I see that gap between my Black Americans don't also understand where I'm coming from either. For the most part, people will say, oh yeah, motherland, that's pretty much all.
Yeah.
But yet is that you can't connect really well to my struggle, my experience.
Yeah.
And also, I'm also detached from the real experience to be, of being an African American also. So it feels like there's a gap on both ends that we can't, just like saying, like you can't bridge that gap because we don't understand on both ends what it really means to be an African or Nigerian and to be African American in America.
Yeah. I remember from my earliest stages of life, my parents trying to strike this balance between absolutely affirming who I am and my dignity and my value and my worth, desiring for me to continue to work, even as a child, for like racial equity and community with all peoples, and at the same time, this kind of desire that almost trumped everything was, I just want you to come home at night. So I have to train you and teach you and prepare you for a world that will see your Black body as dangerous. I remember kind of my first real visceral experience with racism. It's easy, you can look in the rearview mirror and see like, oh, that's probably why that kid's mom in 3rd grade said that thing.
Yeah.
But in many ways I was kind of oblivious to it, as many children are. But I remember, I don't know, man, maybe it was 6th grade, 7th grade, 7th grade, we had just moved to Pinehurst. My father, you've seen him before, very distinguished man, bivocational, so he's a businessman, but he's also a pastor, and so he would take me to school in the morning, and he was at that time, I think, a general manager of a major car dealership in the area, and so, I mean, he had on his custom suit, he was driving a really nice car, he was very clean shaven. I mean, he looked like he stepped straight out of Ebony or Jet magazine. I always admired that about him. And so we're driving to school, and we get to a stoplight, and there's like one car in front of us and several cars behind us. And so we go through the light. The light turned green, we clearly went through, so much so that several cars behind us went through. And I remember my dad getting pulled over and being interrogated, like, why are you here? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing my father shaking in anger, but knowing he couldn't respond because he had had enough experiences in his own life about what outbursts of anger could result in the context of being with a white police officer in the South. And after the police officer left, I just remember my dad weeping.
Wow.
And I could imagine, now that I am a father, that those tears weren't only just because of the personal assault against you, but my son had to see this and had to see me be treated in a dehumanized way. This child that looks up to me, that admires me in a moment. Even if I'm driving a nice car, I'm a professional, it doesn't matter. And so that stuck with me, and it taught me that you can do all the right things and still experience various forms of racial injustice in this country.
Does that kind of like put you in a place where, put some pressure on you as a Black man to have this burden of proof to always show that I'm good, have a decent job, I'm not a criminal, and all things like that? Does that make you feel that way?
Again, that's part of the parenting of many African American children, is the reality that, hey, you can't make the same mistakes that everybody else makes, right? So I remember very early on, my dad, even elementary school, saying, you know, son, when your teachers see you and other people see you at the school, adults, whether it's right or wrong, you kind of are representative of the other kids at the school. So I do believe that the Lord used that to develop leadership skills, but also to just develop kind of this ability to be a bridge. And I know that's something that we've talked about before, just this, where we are right now. We see ourselves as a bridge in so many ways. What are some ways that you kind of are understanding yourself to be a bridge in your current context?
Yeah, I think like my understanding of being a bridge is gonna be that, do I understand well the two sides? And I think for me, I think being a bridge is really interested in bridge right now. At the simple, I mean, like, I'm not African American to start with, and I'm not white either, but yet I'm in this context. So
so what are all the places where you feel like you're straddling?
I think first is going to be is that trying to really understand the context, what it means to be African American first. Is that, okay, what is the story? Can I get full grasp of the story? And what does it mean to be white also? Can I understand what has been? So for me, coming in, I wouldn't say entirely I have this objective view of what has happened, but I think I have some level of objective view of what has happened so far, that I can understand both ends of what has happened, how has that affected? Because, like I said, I have this idea of this America, great America from Nigeria, until I stepped in and I saw that, oh, it's not really as great as it looks on the outside.
Where we are right now, we see ourselves as a bridge. I've been a bridge for a while, and just like infrastructure in any country, any space, it needs to be repaired sometimes, especially if it's used a lot. And I think that a lot of my white friends right now, well-meaning, I'm excited that they're ready to learn, they're ready to walk across me, the bridge, and there's a lot of us right now, as I talk to many of my African-American brothers and sisters, especially other African-American pastors in white evangelical denominations, that are just like, I'm just tired. I'm tired. And not only am I tired, but there's like this other bridge that a lot of us are trying to straddle as well within, you know, our African-American community. The reality is that there are challenges and issues that we even have among each other. And it's just been very difficult in times like this to figure out where's the emotional space come from, the mental space, the bandwidth, the spiritual space to deal with those things. I know you and I've talked a lot about that.
I mean, hearing you say that, the question that comes to my mind is that, how have you been able to do it well to this point? And what part of it is now tiring? Like, what part of you doing this is tiring?
I mean, first, I don't know how well I've been doing it. You know, part of it is that just learning. I think you learn this in ministry, or just being a Christian that's engaged in the world, that you are not Jesus. And I think what's most tiring is that I'm already operating out of a deficit. Because one of the things that you're probably learning as a black person in the United States now is that there's this degree of solidarity that you feel with other people of color, even people you don't know. But when great things happen, and also when really tragic things happen, you feel it almost as if it's a family member that has experienced that. And then you start piling on these videos of people that look like me that are being mistreated, and so you start tired. And then, particularly if you're in leadership positions, like I have African American parishioners, right? Like I have members of my church that are feeling like I'm feeling right now, and are in need of a special and unique type of soul care. And you then have other folks, white folks, who are excited and wanting help to, like, what direction do I need to go? What books do I need to read? Blah, blah, blah. And then you still also have that pocket of folks that you're trying to convince that, like, this is an issue. And I'm hurting, and many of us are hurting. And so you just have to learn when these situations arise, you know, which group necessitates kind of the most of what I have right now. And you just can't be all things to all people.
Yeah, that's really, really kind of helpful to hear. And I'll say that, I mean, lately my biggest two words have been sympathy and compassion. Is that how I think when I got here, the first thing I had to learn is how do I sympathize with what is happening. But then is that knowing how Jesus was, I mean, the gospel will record that Jesus was moved with compassion.
Yeah.
So is that beyond my sympathy for what has happened, am I moved to do something about it?
And it's really that compassion that begins to move us from even the categories of, you know, us and them, right? And, you know, the reality I've seen folks really wrestle with this concept of us and them in two ways. One, they can't break out of those categories, or they are so passionate about the us that they don't rightly acknowledge and celebrate that they have been uniquely created and even have been connected with communities of people and cultures that are unique.
It is like if I walk into a room full of people and I see black people, I see white people, my natural drift is going to be to drift towards black people because it's comfortable, it's easier. I would feel understood, not judged. And I think as people, we love that. We love to be able to be part of a group that welcomes us. And I think that is easy to do. Compassion takes me getting sometimes off that is easy to do and begin to step into the unknown and step into what is somewhat uneasy. It's going to be messy in so many ways, and it's going to be so many times you would be misunderstood for your intentions. Sometimes you would be not even welcomed. Sometimes, but get in there, make friends there, that live there, and then your understanding might change a whole lot. Your perspective of what is wrong or what is right will change a whole lot if you have those first-hand experience. That I would say.
I think the only thing I'd add to that is that God works in diverse ways in this world. And He works diverse ways within the lives of the diversity of His people. And one of the things that I feel in many ways privileged to have experienced is to be able to see the unique ways that God works in people's lives that are not like mine. And there's angles that I see of God's hand in this world that I just would have never seen had I not been in community with folks that weren't like me. And so in all of this, you know, oftentimes it's, I need to do this because it's good. I need to do this because it's right. I need to do this, you know, the more toxic version, those people need me or whatever. But the reality is that, no, you have the opportunity to actually learn more about the Lord. I remember my dad always having this phrase. He would say, son, inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, it's very hard. And the principle he was trying to instill in me is don't get so overwhelmed by the yard. Just go 1 inch at a time. In our situation, you know, one mile at a time. And I think that as a pastor, as a friend, as a neighbor, that is my encouragement to myself first, but also to everyone, is what can you do right now? Maybe it's not the full marathon, but what can you do this mile to help yourself grow and to put yourself in positions where you can actually be an agent of some significant change and impact, both in our communities and in our churches as it relates to these issues.